The hum of the busy restaurant was a familiar comfort, a symphony of clinking glasses, hushed conversations, and the distant sizzle of the grill. Tonight, though, the comfort felt thin, stretched taut like an old sweater. My name is Mark, and, for the past week, I'd been living a lie, a carefully constructed charade designed to expose the truth. I was the CEO of Dinewell Holdings, a multinational restaurant conglomerate. But tonight, I was just Mark, a guy with a rumpled shirt and a cheap watch, hoping to blend in. My mission: to understand why our profit margins were shrinking in our flagship restaurants despite glowing customer reviews and what seemed like solid management reports. The board was breathing down my neck, demanding answers. My gut, however, told me the problem wasn't in the numbers, but in the heart of our operations, the people. So, I'd slipped away from my high-rise office, traded my tailored suits for faded jeans, and embarked on an undercover journey through our various establishments. This particular restaurant, the Gilded Fork, was one of our most prestigious, known for its prime cuts and impeccable service. Yet its balance sheets were bleeding. I slid into a booth near the back, observing. The place was packed, a good sign. Waiters glided between tables, balancing trays laden with food. The hostess, a young woman with a tired smile, efficiently seated new rivals. Everything looked normal. To normal, perhaps, that was the unsettling part. A young woman approached my table. She looked to be in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a faint dusting of flour on her apron. Her uniform, while clean, seemed a little worn at the seams. "Welcome to the Gilded Fork," she said, her voice a soft murmur against the restaurant's din. "My name is Sarah, and I'll be your server tonight." "Thanks, Sarah," I replied, trying to sound as casual as possible. I picked up the heavy leather menu, pretending to deliberate. I already knew what I was ordering. It was always the steak. A good steak, perfectly cooked, was the hallmark of any high-end restaurant. It also gave me a consistent benchmark. "Can I get you something to drink to start?" she asked, her pen poised over her pad. "Just water, please," I said, and she nodded, turning to leave. As she walked away, I noticed a slight limp, almost imperceptible, but there, and her shoulders seemed to carry an invisible weight. My CEO instincts, honed over decades, picked up on these tiny details. They spoke volumes. She returned quickly with my water, a frosty glass that felt good in my hand. "Are you ready to order, sir?" "Yes, I think so," I said, closing the menu. "I'll have the prime ribeye, medium rare, and a side of the creamed spinach." She jotted it down. "Excellent choice. The chef does a wonderful job with our ribeye. Is there anything else I can get for you?" "No, that's all for now. Thank you." Sarah offered a small, polite smile and turned to leave. But then, she hesitated. She looked around, her gaze sweeping the tables, then back at me. Her expression shifted. A flicker of something I couldn't quite place. Apprehension, resolve. It happened so quickly, I almost missed it. Then, her hand moved, almost imperceptibly, to the pocket of her apron. She slid out a folded piece of paper, her fingers brushing against it as if it were precious. My heart gave a little jolt. This wasn't standard procedure. Not at all. Her eyes met mine again, and this time, there was no mistaking the raw emotion in them. A desperate plea, a weary hope. She held out the folded note to me. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, sir, just to read this." I took the note, my fingers brushing hers. Her hand was surprisingly rough, calloused. Not the hands of someone who just takes orders. This was the hand of someone who worked hard. She didn't wait for my reaction, just turned and hurried towards the kitchen, her limp a little more pronounced now. My pulse quickened. What was this? A complaint? A tip? A plea for help? I unfolded the small piece of paper. It was torn from a notepad, the lines uneven, and the handwriting was neat, but clearly written quickly. My eyes scanned the words. "Dear sir, I know this is unprofessional, and I risk everything by doing this, but I have to. My name is Sarah, and I'm one of the servers here. I've been here for 3 years. We love this place. We really do. But things are getting impossible. We're constantly understaffed. Management keeps cutting hours, saying we're not hitting targets. But how can we when there aren't enough of us to cover the tables? We're running ourselves ragged. Tips are down because we can't give proper service. We're exhausted. We're making mistakes because we're overworked. And if we make a mistake, they threaten to write us up, or worse, cut our hours even more. My colleague, Maria, her daughter is sick. She needs more hours, not fewer. She's taking double shifts just to keep up with medical bills. And Thomas, the dishwasher, he broke his hand 2 months ago. They wouldn't cover his physical therapy, said it wasn't work-related. He's working with a brace. In pain, we're not asking for raises, sir. Not right now. We just need enough staff to do our jobs properly. We need decent benefits, especially sick leave. We need to be treated like human beings, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. The quality of the food is still good because the chefs are amazing, but they're stretched thin. 2, they're running out of ingredients because the ordering budget has been slashed. Sometimes we have to tell customers we're out of their favorite dish, and it's heartbreaking to see their disappointment. Please, sir, if you are anyone with influence, anyone who can help, this place is dying, not because of us, but because of the decisions being made from above. We care about the Gilded Fork. We just need someone to care about us. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Sarahi. Reread the note. Then again, my hands were trembling slightly. This wasn't just a note. This was a cry for help, a raw, unfiltered glimpse into the lives of the people who made my company run. The very people I was supposed to be protecting. My stomach churned. Decisions being made from above. That was me. I was above. My directives, filtered through layers of middle management, had evidently been twisted, misinterpreted, or simply ignored. The cost-cutting measures I'd approved, intended to streamline operations and eliminate waste, had instead become a blunt instrument, hacking away at the very heart of the business, its people. I felt a wave of shame wash over me, cold and sharp. All this time, I'd been looking at spreadsheets, at projections, at market analysis. I'd been detached, viewing my employees as abstract data points, not as individuals with lives, families, and very real struggles. I had been so focused on the symptoms of the problem, the dwindling profits, that I had completely missed the disease, a broken system that was crushing the very people it relied upon. Sarah returned with my steak, perfectly cooked, a beautiful crust on the outside, a rich red within. The creamed spinach looked decadent. She placed the plate in front of me, her eyes carefully avoiding mine. She didn't know I was the CEO. She just saw a customer, a stranger to whom she had risked everything. Enjoy your meal, sir, she said, her voice soft, devoid of any hint that she had just handed me a potential career-ending letter. Sarah, I said, keeping my voice low, my eyes on her. She flinched slightly, surprised I'd called her by name. Thank you for this. I tapped the note, which I had discreetly placed under my menu. Her eyes widened, and for a fleeting second, I saw pure terror flash through them. Then, resignation. She probably thought I was going to complain to her manager, get her fired. Sir, I can explain. She began, her voice cracking. No need to, I interrupted gently, keeping my tone steady and reassuring. I understand. I looked at her, really looked at her. The tired eyes, the faint lines of worry etched around them, the almost imperceptible tremor in her hands as she gripped her notepad. This was not just a server. This was a human being, a vital cog in the machine, screaming for help from the deepest trenches. Just continue to do your job, Sarah, I said, giving her a small, genuine smile. And trust me. She looked utterly bewildered, her brow furrowed. She probably thought I was crazy, but she nodded slowly, still wary, and moved on to another table. I ate my steak slowly, each bite tasting like ashes. The delicious food, the elegant ambience, it all felt like a mockery. This beautiful facade was crumbling from within, gnawed at by neglect and indifference. After my meal, Sarah returned. Was everything to your satisfaction, sir? She asked, her voice still cautious. Everything was perfect, Sarah, I said, and I meant the food. Absolutely perfect. I put down my credit card, along with a ridiculously large tip, far more than was customary, even for the Gilded Fork. It wasn't just a tip for the service. It was an apology, a promise, a down payment on a debt I had. Only just realized I owed. Sarah picked up the card, her eyes falling on the amount. Her jaw dropped slightly. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with disbelief. Sir, this is too much. It's exactly what you deserve, Sarah, I said, my voice firm but kind. And tell Maria and Thomas I said hello. Her eyes went wide, and this time, the terror was replaced by a dawning comprehension. A flicker of hope so profound it brought tears to her eyes. She finally understood. Or at least, she understood that I wasn't just another customer. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you, sir. I just nodded, a lump forming in my own throat. As I walked out of the restaurant, the cool night air hitting my face, I felt a burden lift, and a new one settle. The burden of ignorance was gone, replaced by the heavy weight of responsibility. I had seen the truth, raw and unvarnished, through Sarah's desperate plea, and now I had to act. My phone was out before I even reached my rental car. The first call was to my assistant, instructing her to cancel all my appointments for the next week. The second was to my head of HR, demanding an immediate, comprehensive review of all employee benefits, staffing levels, and management practices across all our locations. Starting with the Gilded Fork, the third was to the head of operations, ordering an immediate audit of our procurement processes and supply chain. This wasn't just about the Gilded Fork anymore. Sarah's note was a microcosm, a window into a systemic issue that was likely festering throughout my entire organization. I had been a CEO who looked only at the numbers, and in doing so, I had failed my people. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, data analysis, and difficult conversations. I brought Sarah's note to every board meeting, every department head briefing. I made them read it. I made them understand the human cost of our efficiencies. There was resistance, of course. Pushback. It's just one disgruntled employee. Some argued, anecdotal evidence, others scoffed. But I held my ground. I had seen it with my own eyes. I had felt the emotion in that note. We started with the Gilded Fork. We increased staffing levels, allowing servers to breathe, to give proper service. We reviewed and bolstered benefits, especially sick leave and support for work-related injuries. We implemented new training for managers, emphasizing empathy and supportive leadership over punitive measures. We restored budgets for quality ingredients. It wasn't an overnight fix, but slowly, gradually, things began to change. Employee morale improved. Customer reviews started mentioning the renewed energy of the staff, and the numbers, those stubborn, abstract numbers, began to turn around, reflecting the positive changes we were making. A few months later, I returned to the Gilded Fork, not as an undercover CEO, but as myself. I called ahead, arranged to meet Sarah. She greeted me with a shy but radiant smile. Her eyes seemed brighter, her shoulders less slumped. The limp was still there, but it didn't seem to weigh her down as much. Mark, she said, using my first name, a familiarity born of shared understanding. It's good to see you, you too. Sarah, I replied, genuinely. How are things? She led me to a quiet table. Things are better, much better. We have new staff, enough to handle the rush. Maria's daughter is doing so much better, and she can finally afford her treatments without working herself to death. Thomas is almost fully recovered, and the company is covering his physical therapy now. It's like a different place. She paused, her eyes sparkling. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Sarah, I said, my voice thick with emotion. You had the courage to tell me the truth when no one else would. You saved this place. You saved us. I looked around the bustling restaurant. The laughter was louder, the conversations more vibrant. The hum was still there, but now it sounded like a joyful song. A chorus of people doing what they loved, supported and valued. That night, when I ordered my steak, it tasted different. It tasted like hope. It tasted like a lesson learned. It tasted like the incredible power of a simple note, handed by a brave waitress, that truly changed everything. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that this was only the beginning of a much-needed transformation, not just for the Gilded Fork, but for every single person who worked under the umbrella of Dinewell Holdings, because sometimes the most profound. Insights don't come from boardrooms or balance sheets, but from the quiet, desperate plea of a stranger, scribbled on a piece of paper and handed to you across a table.